All right, Wade's World people, we are back, and I can't even believe I'm about to say this, but Donald Trump, the walls are closing in. It's getting worse for Donald Trump than I even thought I could imagine when it comes to these Epstein files and the things that keep being released in these Epstein files. We're finding out new and more information little by little, and now we're getting even further and further down the rabbit hole of what the fuck is going on with our government and its leaders and its past leaders and all these connections and how disgusting and depraved it can potentially be. It's all coming out. And we're going to take a look at a couple things here today that explain it, some things that are still rumored, some things that are being alleged, new emails and new back and forths that we have. All of it is pointing in a direction that I don't like, not only for this country, but I don't like for the trust in our leadership moving forward. I'm not just talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about both Republicans and Democrats. This is becoming a partisan issue when it really should be an issue of transparency with the American people, something that we're not getting, something that seems like we're not going to get out of this. But let's go through it all. We're going to start with a CoffeeZilla video that he just dropped a couple of hours ago. I want to take a look, take a listen. But Donald Trump is holding on by, I think, strings right now. It was already alleged and now becoming even more suspicious, his relationship and what he knew about Jeffrey Epstein and the sex trafficking ring, and what are his relationships with the people that did actually partake in this depravity and this unspeakable, disgusting, monstrous, awful of this ring of complete demons that used underage girls, that used these poor children at the time. And yeah, it's just, none of it's looking good. And the more that comes out, the worse it makes not only Donald Trump, but everybody else. Let's get in with this and start with the CoffeeZilla Voidzilla video on Trump's demanding of the Justice Department to look into Jeffrey Epstein and his relationship with political figures. But again, this is partisan. Trump wanting Epstein to look into people that aren't Republicans. Let's take a look.
Trump has ordered an Epstein investigation. This is brand new. We're going to go through it because previously they said we didn't have enough evidence. This all got started 2 days ago when House Democrats released 3 emails that seemed to implicate Trump. The GOP responded by releasing 20,000 emails, saying that those 3 emails were cherry-picked and misleading, specifically in relation to Virginia Giuffre, who never accused Trump of wrongdoing. However, in this huge release of emails, there was a lot. And specifically, I should note that Trump was mentioned more than anyone. But remember, it was a mixed bag.
This is why it's so important that we get transparency out of not only the government, but Donald Trump himself, because of this number. This does not mean that Donald Trump was mentioned in these emails as admission of guilt 1,670 times, but he's mentioned in a various amount of ways. Who he knew, what he was doing at certain locations, potentially, again, Epstein looking to set Trump up or blackmail Trump, or some places where he says Trump exactly was or was doing certain things that maybe were true, maybe weren't. Regardless, what makes all of this worse for Donald Trump right now? Because again, I said this in the last yesterday's video, Trump is not going to look good coming out of this. To anybody that wants to look at him as if he's done something wrong here, they will already see that. What he can do now is be as transparent as possible, because when you're alleged to be involved with someone like Jeffrey Epstein and you don't clear your name, the allegations are going to get worse. And the people that already believe that you've done something wrong are going to consider themselves right because you are not stepping up to the plate. It makes you seem like a liar. It makes you seem like someone that is guilty of at least something, and then it's left up to interpretation how guilty you are of it. And again, I don't just mean this as a Trump bad thing. I'm just saying it's the president of the United States. And you're seeing him, we'll get back to this CoffeeZilla video, but you're seeing him refuse to answer questions on it. You're seeing him refuse to even, address the press when he walks out of the White House into Air Force One.
What did Jeffrey Epstein mean when he said you knew about the girls? If the Epstein case is a hoax, why are you calling for more investigations?
All great questions, starting with the, regime change in Venezuela stuff. There's a lot going on right now, and you don't know what's running cover for what. We have this potential war with Venezuela about to happen, and we don't know if that's because they need something to take the people's minds off the Epstein files, or do the Epstein files Are they now coming out because the Democrats are trying to take people's mind off the fact that the government was shut down for 41 days and a ton of people lost SNAP benefits or any type of benefits and people weren't paid and X, Y, and Z? It all feels like it's just another big thing to distract from the thing before. And this is why, again, maybe I'm not speaking for everybody, but I feel like there is no transparency. I feel like I don't know where to turn for any truthful answer from anybody in a high-ranking place, and this is why people are losing faith in the government. And those, again, fair play to those journalists for asking one of the more important questions there. Trump has called this entire thing a hoax. Trump has said that this is, made up by the Democrats, made up by Obama, made up by name the ticket winner for this week that Trump wants to blame for these things. And again, there's someone that is a conservative that voted Trump. I am losing faith, not by the day, not by the month, not by the week, by the second, in this guy's ability to not only govern and do it truthfully, but that I voted for the guy that was supposed to have America's best interests at heart when everything seems like it's a game made up to look better for him and nobody else. This is Trump first, not America first, and that's not what I voted for, and that's not what I want. So that's why I'm a little bit more upset now that all this stuff is continually coming out and we're seeing a defense that doesn't make sense saying it was a hoax when now you're asking the DOJ to investigate, other things talking about what he was involved in, what he wasn't involved in, pointing fingers that we're going to get to later in this video to different people that want more transparency around this and other things going on in the government right now. There's a lot, and it feels like Trump's on the wrong end of all of it, meaning he is making the wrong decision in the interest of American people on every big decision right now he potentially can make.
But remember, it was a mixed bag. So depending on who your news sources are, you may see them focus on one side of it or the other. Some will spend tons of time talking about Jeffrey Epstein, saying he never got a massage, referring to Trump. Others will focus on the fact that Epstein claimed that he was the only one who could take Trump down, implying that he had some kind of compromising information on Trump. I will remind you that these files went way beyond just Trump. Some people like Michael Wolff came off terrible, like they were plotting to blackmail people. They were running PR for Jeffrey Epstein. Others like Bannon seemed to be much closer than we previously knew. This went to the highest halls of power, and we talked about some of the governments that were even involved. But today I just want to focus on everything that.
If you didn't see that, we're talking about governments like Israel that are potentially involved, Saudi Arabia potentially involved. Jeffrey Epstein had clientele at the highest level. But again, this is why I talk about, picking and choosing and cherry picking where you're going to get your news from on this. It doesn't really matter, though, does it? It doesn't matter what Republicans want to tell you to cover for Donald Trump. It doesn't matter what the Democrats want to tell you just to bury Trump. What we want to know is the simple question. And it really should be a simple answer if you have all the facts, which I hope they do from all these emails, and maybe they don't, but who was involved, Democrat or Republican, bipartisan, with this awful sex trafficking ring, this pedophilia, this unbelievable, like I've said, demonic, inhuman act? Anyone that was involved needs to be prosecuted, removed from office if they still hold it, and at least that potentially can be a first step toward this country and its people being able to agree on fucking something and moving forward from there. We're not going to agree on everything. I know that. I know that people that watch this that are not conservative are not going to agree with me on fiscal policy, on the fact that I can't stand socialism, on the idea of the H-1B visas. I don't, these things are not going to be things we agree on, and maybe we can be more cordial talking about it, but this moment right here in history can be a point where we all band together and get not just an answer, get the right answer for this. Because I don't care who it is. Everybody needs to go to jail.
Led up to now there being an investigation into the Epstein files, because previously the DOJ has said there was no evidence to do this, which is what's really weird about all of this. Remember the flip-flopping that's been going on over and over. I'm going to put a few clips here just to show you how much things have changed over the days, weeks, and months leading up to this.
You say that the FBI has Epstein's list. They're sitting on it. Why is the FBI protecting the greatest in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list.
There are a lot of people who are knee-deep in the Washington swamp who are not telling you the truth.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen? It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
A lot of people are wondering, because you said last week that you have the Epstein files on your desk, is when can we see them and what's taking so long to release them?
Breaking news right now. You're going to see some Epstein information being released.
I'm not going to withhold information from the American public ever, but I'm also not going to rush to get it out there in a format in which they can't rely on it.
Overnight, the FBI and Justice Department releasing 11 hours of footage they say helps confirm notorious financier Jeffrey Epstein died by suicide in his Manhattan jail cell in 2019. But perhaps the biggest bombshell, investigators say they found no incriminating client list of Epstein's, no credible evidence that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals, and no evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties.
That's right.
That is, to me, the most clear sign of bullshit that I have ever seen, and they did it in front of your faces. Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, I don't know how involved J.D. Vance is, but J.D. Vance is sitting there saying, yeah, we need to release the list. Everybody's talking about the list, and then all of a sudden, when they do this investigation and you see Pam Bondi sitting up there being like, let me get my 15 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, breaking news, there's going to be some Epstein things released. And then they don't do it. Yes, they release whatever that teaser binder thing was that they gave all the influencers, but there's some news that comes out, but then they act as though there was no nefarious things going on in the first place. They act as though Jeffrey Epstein wasn't a convicted sex offender at that point. And then all of a sudden he dies by suicide in his cell. How does that not scream cover up to everybody that looks at this stuff? You don't have to be someone that, loves Democrats. You don't even have to hate Trump, but you have to admit that this is odd. The fact that there has been so much. Yes, we have the files. No, we don't. We have the evidence. No, we don't. Actually, there is no evidence. There are no files. There is no list. Now we're reinvestigating, using Pam Bondi, again, the Attorney General, to reinvestigate the thing that we were already supposed to have had. And now, after this entire back and forth since Trump's been in office, we're going to now go forward and investigate all the people involved with Epstein. I'm not even sure how this works. Why is it now, after you've confirmed that you had the files or the list, you confirmed that there were people on it, and then you said that actually that's not true, and now we're going to go back and do it again? What are we doing? Trump definitely is either in it or is covering for someone in it, and it's clear as day to me.
First, it was a Democrat cover-up. Then they reviewed the files. They found Trump's name in a few of them. Then they said it was a Democrat hoax. They said there's nothing to release here. Jeffrey Epstein was a soul trafficker to himself. And they released a memo basically saying there's nothing to see here. They said specifically, we did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties, and that it did not expose any additional third parties to allegations of illegal wrongdoing. And yet now we are investigating people. So what has flip-flopped us yet again? Well, after this email release, the president has been acting really weird. First, he personally called Rep. Lauren Boebert, urging her to withdraw support for a bill releasing the Epstein files. And then several of the top law enforcement officials met to discuss the Epstein files, specifically in the Situation Room, which was covered by a White House correspondent. And I think it's worth hearing him talk about how weird this is for people who aren't in the Washington zeitgeist.
In that same day, she was summoned to a meeting with the Attorney General and the FBI director. So these are the top law enforcement officials of the whole United States government are sitting in the White House Situation Room, providing a briefing. I'm like, okay, so what does that all tell you? You've got very sensitive information that being briefed here to a member of Congress, presumably, with a security clearance. Honestly, when I see something like that, I'm like, that's just flashing intel, right? So the fact that this happened in the Situation Room really was like a whoa moment for me.
Right.
Because I'm like, wow. So this goes to classified setting. They don't want her to bring a briefing, or they don't want to bring her phone in. Presumably, she probably didn't have any staff that were allowed in there. This is like clearance to the max.
Yeah.
So
what this tells me is they know something is coming. And I'm not even trying to be like facetious or hyperbolic when I say something like this, because I know there's a lot of sensationalism online right now, and everybody is trying to get ahead of this story. In journalism these days, it feels like people want to be first before they're right. And that has bit everybody in the ass when it came to, the reporting on Trump being in the living room with this girl. Turned out it was Virginia, and he did nothing with her. And people were like, well, and the Democrats' actual Twitter had to delete the tweet they tried to insinuate that Trump was guilty of before they unredacted the name and saw it was the girl that actually came out and said Trump had done nothing to her. But what I think this situation is going to, show the meeting of the Attorney General and the FBI Director, everybody, all these security heads in one specific place, I think it has to be formulating a way to get ahead of what's coming. And I don't know what that is, but it's clear they are trying to run defense for whatever it is. The most logical thing is that Trump is in those files doing something nefarious or covering for someone else who did, which would implicate him. I mean, if you're asking my opinion, that's what I think. I don't know that he did anything, but I don't know what else would be in there that you're scrambling everybody around for, that you're trying to get Boebert to stop the vote on. I don't know. But here's another thing. They're going to try to vote to release the entire, I don't know if it's the entirety, but whatever else they have. I think by the time you guys see this video, there's supposed to be a vote to drop even more files. Could this be part of, again, game planning to either not let that happen or, I don't know, get their message out first? I don't know. But this you don't call meetings of those level security intel people to just chat when this kind of stuff's going on. It seems like panic.
It's an ordinary reaction. I mean, they were taking it very seriously. And the fallout to all of this was Donald Trump today saying he will be asking AG Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice to investigate Jeffrey Epstein's involvement and relationship with Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, Reid Hoffman, JP Morgan Chase, and many other people and institutions to determine what was going on with him. And Bondi immediately accepted, saying, "Thank you, Mr. President. The department will pursue this with urgency and integrity." But notably, all these people are sort of Democrats. So there don't seem to be any Republicans mentioned here, which makes sense given that Trump's initial statement calls it still an Epstein hoax involving Democrats, not Republicans. So it seems
now that the Democrats are using the Epstein hoax involving Democrats, not Republicans, to try and deflect from their disastrous shutdown and all of their failures, I will be asking AG Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice, together with our great patrons, the FBI, to investigate the involvement. So again, I don't understand, Trump even has ego at this point. And again, it was endearing when it was ego in the face of the corrupt government, right? When Trump was coming up in 2016 and he had that ego to say, I know you guys do dirty business because I've been involved in dirty business. I've been involved in tax evasion. I've been involved in these things because I know the game and you guys set the game up and now I'm going to come in and clear all that up. And maybe I was ignorant to believe some of that. Maybe I was just turned off by the established government and how badly there seems to be a disconnect between the government and doing things to help American people, or just to give us our space and let us do our thing like the federal government, in my opinion, should. Smaller federal government, the better. But when I watch, in the midst of a situation that Trump is currently in, him still play partisan bullshit in some of these it's true social, but some of these, what do you call them, truths? Which, by the way, I know I've been accused of this. I don't have a True Social account. I'm not that far gone. All right, I'm still on Twitter. But he's like, I'm using Democrats are using the Epstein hoax. He still calls it the hoax, but he's going to investigate it, involving Democrats, not Republicans. So if it was a hoax that involved them, then it wouldn't make any sense to it all be a hoax. I don't know. It's very weird. But Trump, again, is showing in this moment with this tweet and some other things that we'll get into in a second, that it's still about protecting himself from people asking questions about something that he says he's not involved in. It's very, very odd.
Seems clear that they're not going to go after their own. Instead, they're going to go after Democrats only, which again is weird because they previously said they did not have evidence to do any of that. They said they didn't have evidence to investigate anyone, Democrat or Republican. And when people didn't buy that and said, well, clearly there's something here and you guys are hiding it, they go, okay, well, we're only going to investigate one side of it, which I don't think is going to appease anyone, especially given that these emails that we just saw crossed the spectrum, once again, as we knew, and heavily involved Trump, despite the fact that some of them were good for him, some of them were bad for him. There's just no basis to just investigate one side of the political spectrum here, and especially given that previously y'all said that there was nothing, there was no evidence. What's the evidence now to justify an investigation? Well, I'll give you one theory, although to be clear, it's impossible to know. Maybe this is just vindictive, but take the context for a second that we are about to have the House order the release of the Epstein files.
Yes.
Well, if the DOJ has an ongoing investigation, suddenly they can say, hey, we can't release all the files to you because there's information here that's part of an ongoing investigation, so we have to hold that back. So it's very worrisome that on...
Okay, yes, this... I didn't think of it the way he was talking about, but this makes way more sense than even anything I was thinking of. Them just starting an investigation that is probably, I don't know, that could be fruitless, right? That could just be window dressing to stop the files from being voted on to be released. That would be something I can actually see happening in our ineffective, bureaucratic, red tape, bullshit government. Yeah, I could see something like that 5,000% happening. And again, if there are names that need to be protected, like victims' families and things like that, that they don't want to release, that I understand. But what else could be so damning that the American people do not deserve to see this list and who is involved when it comes to high-level politician, leadership positions, and people that they potentially either voted for, voted against, or represent them at the highest level? We deserve that. We pay these people salaries. You guys only have jobs because of us. And I think people have gotten so backward in the way that we look at politics and the way that we look at our representatives and the way that we look at these people. Because in reality, it doesn't matter if I say, you know, they shouldn't be above the law or they shouldn't be held in a higher position than any of us other people, because us other people, us millions and millions of regular people, are the only reason they hold a position at all. We're the only reason they make decisions at all. They make decisions, or they should be making decisions, on their best behalf of us, not them. And so when this stuff happens and you see every last-ditch effort from Trump and the GOP, who, again, I'm a conservative, but I can't sit back and watch this and go, yeah, this is transparent. This is what I voted for. I want my representatives to act like this. I don't. I want this to be released. And I'm not saying just GOP. I mean it on the Democrat side, too. I don't care about the games. And this is another game here. The way I look at it, the way Coffee is talking about it, I see, well, let's start this investigation. Again, whatever it leads to be, it doesn't really matter, because we'll just hold up the releasing of the rest of the files because everything's under said investigation. It tells me they have something to hide. The more you don't answer the question directly, the more suspicious you seem. Point blank, period. It's like I'm just saying, it's like when that Hassan dude clearly used a shock collar on his dog, then lied about it. Then to explain the first lie, he had to continue making up more and more lies that were less and less believable, that ended up having this circular kind of explanation that relied on every other single lie. And once you broke just one link in the chain, the entire story fell apart. The release of the rest of these files clearly, to me, looks like the chain that potentially will break whatever story, whatever new concoction that Trump or GOP or whoever is coming up with to kind of get these things stopped and held up. I think this is the straw that breaks the camel's back. I could be sipping hopium there, but why would you do this? Why else? But what else is there at this point, right? Like, we need answers.
The eve of these Epstein files being released by the DOJ, suddenly they have this investigation, which might mean that they can't release them. It's honestly also corrupt, and all of us are just wanting everyone to be investigated in all of this, or at the minimum, some transparency, which it seems like we're never going to get.
All right, so that was CoffeeZilla's video. And then we had a couple more things tonight that were going on Twitter. Number one, Trump, again, going after Thomas Massie in the midst of this entire thing, and then throwing Rand Paul to the wolves as well in this tweet, talking about Massie's marriage after his wife passed, which is just, again, I've never really agreed with Donald Trump's brash and sometimes borderline and really over-the-line way he talks about people. But in a moment like this, where all eyes are on you, as the president, and your involvement in something like this, we're not talking about Watergate. Hell, we're not even talking about Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky at this point. This, if it's true and Trump really had anything to do with the Epstein files, I mean, it's the worst scandal in U.S. president history. Point blank, period. It's awful. And he's on True Social talking about Thomas Massey and how much of a bad husband he is for remarrying so quickly. Anyway, part of the big news that came out after CoffeeZilla's video and later on today was Donald Trump, again, on True Social saying, I am withdrawing my support and endorsement of Congresswoman, in quotes, Marjorie Taylor Greene of the great state of Georgia. Over the past few years, despite my creating record achievements for our country, including a total and complete victory on the shutdown, closed borders, low taxes, no men and women's sports or transgender anywhere, or everyone, ending DEI. Okay, I'll stop. Stopping Biden's record-setting inflation, biggest regulation cuts in history, stopping 8 wars, rebuilding our military, being respected by every country in the world, in parentheses, as opposed to being the laughingstock that we were just 12 months ago. There's no way Trump writes these. Having trillions of dollars, record-setting, invested in the U.S., and having created the hottest, has there been a period in this sentence? And having created the hottest country anywhere in the world from being a dead country just 12 months ago, and so much more. All I see wacky Marjorie do is complain. It seemed to all begin when I sent her a poll stating she should not run for senator or governor. She was at 12% and didn't have a chance unless, of course, she had my endorsement, which she wasn't about to get. She has told many people that she's upset that I don't return her phone calls anymore. But with 219 congressmen and women, 53 U.S. senators, 24 cabinet members in almost 200 countries, and an otherwise normal life to lead, I can't take a ranting lunatic's call every day. I understand that wonderful conservative people are thinking about primarying Marjorie in her district of Georgia, that they're too fed up with her and her antics, and if the right person runs, they will have my complete and unyielding support. She has gone far left, even doing The View, with their low IQ Republican ranting anchors. I will agree that The View has some crazy ladies on there, and they make absolutely no sense most of the time. Thank you for the attention on this matter. Make America great again. This was a full-on paragraph to go after Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, yes, I think most people will understand is in no way, shape, or form far left. Has definitely been someone that has been kind of attached at the hip with Donald Trump and a lot of his policies and a lot of things that he said in his second term here with Make America Great he wanted to do. But she's the farthest thing from a leftist. And regardless what happened here, the complete flip from Trump, once again, playing out publicly like this, right around the time where this Epstein investigation heats up and the questions are being asked about it, not only by the public, but by Marjorie Taylor Greene, it seems suspicious. Right? Now we have infighting. Now we're not just pointing the finger at the Bill Clintons, the Hillary Clintons, the Barack Obamas, the Joe Bidens, anyone to do with Epstein on the left or on the Democrat side. Now we're infighting with Republicans because Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of the Republicans that wants answers in the Epstein files, among other things that I assume she doesn't agree with Trump on. But do you notice the end of that message isn't just a lambasting of Marjorie Taylor Greene? It is a signal to someone that is going to run against her in Georgia that if they essentially toe the line for Donald Trump, that he will support them. And ipso facto, at least in his mind, that will mean that they will take out Marjorie Taylor Greene in primaries. So again, you're seeing not only infighting, but you're seeing Donald Trump trying to wield his presidential power to get people potentially, I'm just trying to draw conclusions, potentially to quiet down about the Epstein files. He talks about, not returning calls and things like that. Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene had a response. She said, President Trump just attacked me and lied about me. I haven't called him at all, but I did send these text messages today. Apparently, this is what sent him over the edge. Let's take a look at the text. This is to Donald Trump. Check the flight logs of Epstein's plane. Bill Clinton is on there like 26 times, Hillary too, which is why it was very weird to see Epstein saying things like Bill had never come to the island or never been around it when he's on the plane like constantly. I know they said it was for charity work, but I don't know if I'm buying that. For many of us, releasing the Epstein files has always been for the women who were the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, but also because we believe that Democrat bad guys like the Clintons were entangled and involved with him. Epstein was the spider that wove the web of the deep state. lean into it. No response. And then to Natalie, who people are saying is the person potentially behind the scenes that helps Donald Trump with his social media and helps out write some of these statements. Natalie says the Jeffrey Epstein hoax, which does seem like something Trump would tweet in the way he would tweet it or Truth Social it. And then Marjorie responds, in every single interview I have done, I have defended President Trump. I have said over and over the women say he did nothing wrong, and their attorney says he's the only one who helped, which is true when it comes to the one girl, Virginia. I'm not sure about others, but the idea that he never did anything and he told Ghislaine Maxwell to stop. But then again, it implies he knew that it was going on and didn't say anything to the FBI or higher authority, unless you believe that he was working with the FBI, which again, I don't know if that's been confirmed. She continues, and the Democrats who had 4 years to release the files but did nothing. Stop ignoring the women. Many of them literally voted for President Trump and said so publicly. Them being raped as teenagers is not a hoax. And I agree with her, but she had more to say in her tweet. So apparently that's what sent him over the edge, the Epstein files. And of course, he's coming after me hard to make an example to scare all other Republicans before next week's vote to release the Epstein files, which again lines up with my theory that it's a little shot across the bow to say, if you want my support and you want my endorsement, quiet down on this. It's astonishing, really, how hard he's fighting to stop the Epstein files from coming out, that it actually goes to this level. I agree. It doesn't make any sense for a guy that has said it's a hoax, that said he's not involved, that said him and Epstein were not friends since the early 2000s. They didn't communicate with him. Who are you protecting? Who? If it's not you, who? And why can that mean more than the girls that were raped, these underage teenage girls that were raped, their families, their friends, and the American people's trust? How can that mean more? And the office you serve, remove the personal aspect from it. Like, even if it's personal to Donald Trump, you took an oath to represent the American people, not your self-interest, especially when it comes to something like this. So again, I agree. But really, most Americans wish he would fight this hard to help the forgotten men and women of America who are fed up with foreign wars, yep, and foreign causes, yep, are going broke trying to feed their families, yes, and are losing hope of ever achieving the American dream. That's what I voted for. Same here. I've supported President Trump with too much of my precious time, too much of my own money, and fought harder for him even when almost all other Republicans turned their back and announced him. But I don't worship or serve Donald Trump. I worship God. Jesus is my savior, and I served my district, GA14, the American people. I remain the same today as I've always been, and I will continue to pray this administration will be successful because the American people desperately deserve what they voted for. For me, I remain America first and America only. This is the crazy part about all this happening right now, is that Marjorie Taylor Greene has been, like she said, one of the biggest people in the corner of Donald Trump. Like, one of the most staunch supporters of Trump. So for her and him to have this big falling out publicly like this shows you that whatever is going on is fraying the conservatives, the Republicans, at the seams. And I'm sure Democrats are eating this alive, being like, yeah, we got them now. The whole party's going to go up in flames. And again, I guess it just depends on what you want out of this. I'm not someone that really cares about playing partisan politics at a time like this, when this, at least with this specific thing going on, right? And then Marjorie also talks about, her want to get rid of H-1B visas. That's something that President Trump also came out earlier this week and was talking about how, America just doesn't have enough skilled people to fill positions that H-1B visas fill. I disagree, seeing as like half of the country has a bachelor's degree, and most of these H-1B visas, they go to bachelor's and master's degree applicants from other countries. I don't think that we should not allow bright people into this country. It's not what I'm saying. But I do think that opportunities for those same positions of people of a similar education level here in the States should get that first priority, because we should be trying to give our citizens the best possible chance to help this country become great and help this country ascend to whatever the next level is and make us better internally before we always look to seek help from the external. I'm not saying, again, it's bad. And there's been some amazing things that have come from some of the brightest minds in the world coming to America to help us here. But I don't think, as the sitting president of the United States, to go in an interview and to tell the American people they're not talented is the right message. And again, it's a message based on a policy that I don't think is right either. Regardless, that was talked about. And again, you just see a little bit of the complete chaos in the party when it comes to the Republicans right now. But here was President Trump on Air Force One talking, I guess, later this evening about the Epstein files again. It's going to be tough to hear this because of the engine, but let's take a listen.
Band.org. Live now to remarks from President Trump.
With the president of Harvard, who you know, who that is, Summers, Larry Summers, whatever his name is, and all of the other people that he spent time with. Jeffrey Epstein and I had a very bad relationship for many years, but he also saw strength because I was president. So he dictated a couple of memos to himself. Give me a break. You're going to find out what did he know with respect to Bill Clinton, with respect to the head of Harvard, with respect to all of those people that he knew, including J.P. Morgan Chase.
Sir,
Yeah, Jennifer, go ahead. Go ahead.
Incriminating in the file, Venezuela, sir. Why are you acting as a...
Quiet, Mickey.
He says, quiet. It's like me talking to my dog, man. That's crazy. And again, I don't disagree with what Trump's saying there. Like, yeah, find out what Epstein's connections were to those people, but also find out what Epstein's connections were to everyone. Why are we selectively pointing the gun at just Trump's enemies when it comes to breaking the Epstein files wide open? Again, you hear that, and it makes you trust Trump less because he's attacking people that he sees as enemies or that are on the other side of the aisle or that he may have something on, but it's like, look over there so I can distract you from what's over here. That's what it seems like when he addresses questions that way. Look at Bill, look at Larry Summers, look at all these people. I want everyone to be looked at, including Trump if he's in these lists. But then one of the weirdest things was leaked, and I can't believe I'm about to read this, but this was a leaked email, I guess in correspondence with Jeffrey Epstein and Mark Epstein, Jeffrey's brother, as well as Steve Bannon, I think is a part of this. I'm not exactly sure, but the implication of it is a bit odd, and if read literally is insane, but I don't know. Let's just read it. This is from Mark, Jeffrey's brother, to Jeffrey. A while back, you mentioned that you were pre-diabetic. Has anything changed with that? What is your boy Donald up to now? This is in 2018, whilst Donald Trump is president. All good, Bannon with me. And then, like Steve Bannon, Mark says to Jeffrey Epstein to ask Steve Bannon, ask him if Putin has the photos of Trump blowing Bubba. I'm sorry. What? Now, I guess it's been said that Bill Clinton has been known as Bubba in those circles, I guess. And read literally, that sounds like he is asking his brother to ask Steve Bannon about Trump, about Vladimir Putin having pictures of Donald Trump blowing Bill Clinton. I'm laughing because of how unbelievable this is. I have no idea what to say. That I can't, at this point, I can't rule anything out. But imagine that was the reason Trump did not want to have these files out. I'm not saying that is, and I'm not even saying that email is me reading it correctly. If I'm trying to be generous, maybe that means, like, hey, ask Putin about Trump. When he says blowing Bubba, maybe like, kissing up to Bill Clinton after he's talking all that shit on Bill Clinton in the public like he has tonight. Or I don't know. I don't know what else he could be referring to, but that's a pretty damning thing to have as an email. So I don't know what that email is supposed to be entailing. Again, that's probably some inside terminology there. I can't think it literally means Donald Trump was giving a blowjob to Bill Clinton. Someone on the internet was like Monica Lewinsky, which you see all them emails, and it was like rolling her sleeves up. All right, you think you could do it better than me? Like, dude, I don't know. I don't know what simulation we're living in 2025, but I do know that if anything comes out true here, this is going to sink Trump, because everything that's happened in the matter of 10 months. I mean, you see this. This is from Jimmy Dore, who, again, everybody's going to have their spin on this, but just look at all of the things that have tanked since second term of Trump in office. Number one, the putting Israel first stuff, which I think that most Americans now are starting to wake up and go, why are we sending so much money to Israel? Why are Israel's interests our interests? Why are we fighting their wars? Why? And then, you know, covering for whatever's going on here with this Epstein thing. If that's what Trump's doing, it's really hard to think that's not. People are alleging that the Charlie Kirk assassination has been covered up. The January 6th, you know, pipe bomb stuff that's going on. There's just a lot that the American people don't trust right now in this government, whether you're a Republican or you're a Democrat. And I think if there's anything, and my hunch is that there's something that Trump is covering up, this is going to sink him. We're not talking impeachment. We could be talking impeachment. We could be talking even worse. But it just doesn't make sense why he's fighting this hard to not let these files come out if he truly had nothing to do with it and if he didn't have somebody that he was trying to cover for. But that's the update, guys. Tell me what you think. I don't know what to make of that Bill Clinton email. I don't know what to make of a lot of this. But you're seeing Republicans fray at the seams. You've seen the allegations that Trump was giving Bill Clinton the freaking business. Do I think that anything actually happens to Trump? I mean, again, it'll be a matter of if this stuff comes out and if his name is truly implicated in it. But so we'll come back and keep covering this and more videos coming soon. Until then, guess we'll find out.